Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Elena's world crumbled on an unyielding autumn evening when her husband, Victor, expelled her from the once beloved home they had built together. The grand estate, its ivy-clad walls and towering, arched windows speaking of old-world opulence and whispered promises, stood silent under a turbulent, rain-laden sky. In the pallid glow of a lone street lamp, Elena's tear-streaked face revealed both the agony of betrayal and the nascent spark of resolve. Each drop of rain that fell seemed to echo the shattering of dreams as she clutched a battered suitcase, its worn leather and faded initials testifying to memories of happier times, while stepping away from a life that now felt like a cruel mirage. Wandering aimlessly along rain-slicked cobblestones, Elena's every footstep resonated with the weight of her lost past. The rhythmic patter of water on cold stone mingled with the muted hum of a city that offered no solace. Memories of laughter in sunlit halls, shared secrets in shadowed corridors, and tender moments of intimacy now blended with the bitter sting of abandonment. The mansion behind her, its ornate facade darkened by neglect and sorrow, loomed like a specter of what once was, a tangible reminder of promises broken and trust betrayed. Yet, in the midst of overwhelming despair, a fragile ember of determination began to glow within her chest. In the restless days that followed, Elena's nights were tormented by flashbacks of a life turned to ash and by an unshakable sense of injustice. The stark contrast between the cold grandeur of the estate and the emptiness that now filled her heart fueled a growing resolve to reclaim her dignity and her destiny. One stormy night, while seeking refuge in a modest shelter, she discovered an unexpected letter slipped under the door. The envelope, cream-colored and sealed with an unfamiliar crest reminiscent of forgotten family heraldry, contained a brief, cryptic message. The handwritten note, signed with the name of a father whose presence had long been an enigma, spoke of a hidden inheritance and urged her to seek the expertise of a distinguished legal firm renowned for unearthing long-buried secrets. As Elena's trembling fingers caressed the delicate paper, a surge of hope intermingled with the raw pain of rejection. Her father, a man of mystery whose sparse visits and whispered recollections had always hinted at a deeper story, had left behind more than just memories. He had bequeathed a legacy designed to restore honor and reveal truths. The letter hinted at a carefully constructed testament, a complex arrangement of conditions and hidden clauses meant not merely to restore material wealth, but to expose a web of betrayal that stretched far beyond the confines of her failed marriage. Determined to unearth the secrets of this inheritance, Elena resolved to confront the forces that had conspired to keep her in darkness. She sought the counsel of Edward, a seasoned lawyer with penetrating eyes and a reputation for dismantling intricate family intrigues. In a modest office bathed in soft morning light, surrounded by rows of leather-bound volumes and time-worn portraits of stern ancestors, Edward patiently reviewed the cryptic documents. He explained that her father's testament was not a simple legal instrument but a labyrinthine puzzle, a legacy woven from threads of honor, retribution, and hidden alliances that spanned decades. Every clause, he noted, was imbued with a purpose: to safeguard the truth and to ensure that those who had wronged her would eventually be unmasked. As the bitter taste of betrayal mingled with a newfound resolve, Elena began to see her painful past in a different light. The mansion, once a symbol of her shattered dreams, now became the starting point for a journey of reclamation. Every rain-soaked street and every shadowed alleyway whispered secrets of a hidden heritage waiting to be revived. With each recollection of lost love and unfulfilled promise, her determination grew stronger. The inheritance promised not only the restoration of material wealth but also the unveiling of a dark conspiracy, one that implicated her despised husband, Victor, and other powerful figures whose machinations had conspired against her. As dawn approached and the storm began to relent, Elena stepped forward with a resolute heart. The relentless rain had cleansed the streets, and in its wake, the first tentative rays of sunlight broke through the heavy clouds. In that fragile moment between night and day, she vowed to reclaim not only the fortune bequeathed by her mysterious father, but also her own identity, long suppressed by the cruel twists of fate. The road ahead would be treacherous, strewn with legal battles, clandestine meetings, and revelations that might shake the very foundations of her world. Yet, as the golden light of morning bathed the wet pavement, Elena knew that she was finally ready to transform her anguish into a force for change. A force that would bring to light the long-hidden truths of her past and ignite the spark of a new beginning. Elena's descent into the labyrinth of her past began in earnest the very day after she left the ruins of her former life. The city, still shrouded in the lingering chill of a stormy night, became the stage for her quest for truth. Every corner held a memory, every shadow whispered a secret. Determined to unravel the mysteries encoded within her father's cryptic letter, she found solace and purpose in the pursuit of long-buried clues. With Edward by her side, his steady presence a counterbalance to her turbulent emotions, Elena began a painstaking investigation that led her to the forgotten outskirts of the city, where a derelict estate awaited like a silent guardian of secrets. At the estate, time appeared to have stopped. The once grand mansion, now cloaked in decay and enveloped by overgrown ivy, exuded an eerie aura of abandonment. Its cracked stone walls and shattered windows were a stark contrast to the vibrant memories of a family steeped in honor and tradition. Inside, dust danced in the pale beams of light that pierced through broken glass. Here, among tattered drapes and faded portraits, lay an archive of relics. Stacks of brittle letters, diaries penned in an elegant yet hurried hand, and cryptic maps that hinted at clandestine locations. Each item was a fragment of a puzzle that spanned decades, a silent testament to alliances forged in secrecy and betrayals meticulously concealed. Within a cramped study lined with ancient books, Elena discovered a series of journals that chronicled her father's covert endeavors. The journals were more than mere records. They were impassioned odes to justice, imbued with the fervor of a man who had dared to challenge the corrupt powers that once ruled over his world. His words spoke of hidden meetings in smoke-filled rooms, of midnight rendezvous beneath flickering street lamps, and of a network of allies committed to unearthing the truth at any cost. Each carefully inscribed line resonated with a sense of urgency, urging Elena to piece together the fragmented narrative of a legacy that had been deliberately shrouded in mystery. Edward, ever meticulous, cross-referenced the faded entries with archived legal documents and historical records. Long nights were spent poring over yellowed papers under the glow of a solitary lamp, the soft scratching of pen on paper punctuating the silence of their makeshift study. With every revelation, the scope of the conspiracy grew more ominous. It was no longer just a matter of reclaiming an inheritance. It was a battle against a legacy of corruption that had been allowed to fester unchecked for generations. "Your father's words are not merely a promise of wealth," Edward remarked in a hushed tone, "but a mandate to expose a web of deceit that has long ensnared our society." As Elena absorbed the weight of these truths, a particularly curious artifact captured her attention. A small, intricately designed key adorned with the same emblem that graced her father's letter. Its delicate craftsmanship spoke of a purpose far greater than unlocking a simple door. Edward speculated that the key might grant access to a hidden chamber, a repository of further evidence that could irrevocably change the course of her struggle. The discovery of the key ignited a spark of hope within her, for it symbolized not only the tangible link to her father's legacy but also the promise of unlocking the final piece of the puzzle. Driven by this newfound determination, Elena and Edward set off to locate the safe house mentioned in fragmented memories and cryptic hints. Tucked away in a dense woodland where nature reigned supreme, the safe house was a modest cabin that seemed untouched by the passage of time. Its weathered exterior and creaking floors belied the treasures hidden within. Inside, they unearthed bundles of letters sealed with wax, meticulously drawn maps, and more personal artifacts that provided further insight into the clandestine operations her father had once led. Every item they discovered deepened the mystery, reinforcing the notion that her inheritance was intertwined with a legacy of resistance against a corrupt order. In that secluded refuge, Amid the rustling leaves and distant calls of nocturnal creatures, Elena felt the stirring of a transformation. No longer was she merely a broken soul exiled by betrayal. She was emerging as a determined seeker of truth, prepared to confront the very forces that had wronged her. Each piece of evidence, each whispered clue, fueled her resolve to reclaim not only her rightful legacy but also the honor and justice that had been denied to her for so long. The journey was fraught with peril and uncertainty, yet within the silent embrace of the safe house, Elena vowed that she would stop at nothing to expose the full extent of the conspiracy, a conspiracy that reached deep into the corridors of power and threatened to upend the world she thought she knew. Elena's journey reached its ultimate crescendo on a chill morning when the first tentative rays of dawn broke through a sky still heavy with the remnants of night's storm. In the cavernous great hall of the mansion, once the stage of her shattered past, she now stood poised for the final confrontation. The long corridors, adorned with faded portraits of stern ancestors and draped in an aura of bygone opulence, bore silent witness to decades of betrayal and secret struggles. Today, every anguished tear and every sleepless hour spent piecing together the fragments of her legacy would culminate in a reckoning that promised both personal redemption and the unmasking of a vast conspiracy. At the heart of the hall, Victor awaited, a man whose once deceptively charming smile had curdled into an expression of cold, desperate fury. His eyes, dark with regret and menace, met Elena's unyielding gaze as if challenging her right to reclaim what was stolen from her. The space between them vibrated with the electric tension of a destiny long deferred. Surrounding them, Edward and a small cadre of allies, legal experts, historians, and steadfast friends who had labored behind the scenes, formed a silent but resolute bulwark against the forces of corruption that Victor had so long nurtured. Clutched in Elena's trembling yet determined hand was the leather-bound tome, its time-worn pages inscribed with the final, cryptic clauses of her father's testament. Every carefully penned word within that sacred document had been a stepping stone on her arduous path, a path marked by isolation, bitter loss, and a dogged pursuit of the truth. Now, the tome served as both shield and sword, a weapon to dismantle the labyrinthine network of deceit that had not only driven her from the home she once loved but had also enabled Victor to amass power at the expense of justice. A hushed silence fell as Elena began to speak, her voice resonant and unwavering. "Today, I stand before you not as the broken remnant of a forsaken past, but as the rightful heir to a legacy built on truth and honor," she declared. With each measured word, she recounted the agonizing journey, from the moment of her expulsion to the relentless quest that had unearthed hidden alliances, clandestine meetings, and long-buried evidence of corruption. The crowd, caught in the gravity of her revelation, listened as the tapestry of betrayal was unspooled before their eyes, revealing how Victor's cruelty was but a single thread in a vast web of conspiracies that had undermined justice for far too long. As her voice filled the grand hall, the assembled witnesses, some once complicit in maintaining the old order, shifted uneasily. Victor's features contorted with a mixture of rage and despair. His feeble interjections dissolved into the charged atmosphere. The final clause of the testament, now activated by Elena's resolute acceptance of her destiny, bound him irrevocably to the consequences of his actions. In that defining moment, the mansion itself seemed to tremble with the weight of impending justice. The arrival of law enforcement, summoned by the network of informants and allies Elena had gathered, signaled the collapse of the corrupt empire Victor had so meticulously built. In the ensuing chaos, as officers moved in to arrest Victor and his cohorts, the great hall transformed from a somber monument to past misdeeds into a beacon of hope and renewal. The long-hidden evidence, once confined to secret rooms and coded documents, was now laid bare for all to see. Elena's victory was not merely the reclamation of a lost inheritance. It was a resounding declaration that truth, no matter how deeply buried, would ultimately prevail. Every heart in that hall beat in unison with the promise of reform and the eradication of a legacy steeped in deceit. Yet even as the tumult subsided and a tentative calm began to settle over the space, Elena felt the profound responsibility of the legacy entrusted to her. The medallion resting against her chest, a family heirloom passed down through generations, reminded her that the battle for justice was far from over. Its cool, unyielding surface was a constant testament to the sacrifices of those who had come before, and a solemn call to build a future defined not by retribution alone, but by compassion, transparency, and enduring truth. In the quiet moments that followed the day's dramatic climax, as twilight softly merged into the deep hues of night, Elena took a final lingering look around the hall. The echoes of the past, once marked by betrayal and sorrow, were being rewritten by the promise of a new era. Standing on the threshold of this transformed reality, she vowed to honor her father's memory and the countless sacrifices that had paved the way for this day. With unwavering resolve, she stepped forward into a future bathed in the light of justice, a future where every hidden truth would be brought to light, and every injustice would be met with a steadfast pursuit of righteousness. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.